Okay, we're back again, and we are doing the conclusion, the summary of the video series, The Divine Artist, which is a magical and mystical journey that this mystical character, the Divine Artist, was able to take through the glass bead game and meet the 250 members of the glass bead game. And along the way, he was able to learn all of their greatest ideas and incorporate them into themselves, so that the idea is that within the Divine Artist now is all of the ideas of the 250 members, so that the Divine Artist has almost attained this state of perfection or near perfection, because all those ideas have been incorporated into himself. Um, so this is all about the glass bead game, which was from Hermann Hesse's book, where Joseph Knecht was able to study at Castalia and learn about all of these disciplines of mathematics and art and music and religion and metaphysics, and incorporate them all into one ultimate reality. So when the glass bead game is played properly, not only is it a game, but it becomes life. It becomes your life. So everything started with this book, The Metaphysics of Being, which I wrote, and that was intended as an interpretation of Parmenides, Plato's Parmenides. And the goal of that book was to come at, figure out an ultimate absolute truth to the universe. And I have these pictures here, which I'm going to go through in a second. And it seems that everything in the universe is this grand accident. You know, there's a lot of questions that we could never know the answer to. And I have this word why here. Why is there anything at all? Why does evil exist? If God is this all perfect being, why would he create a world with evil and suffering in it? And there's also these four antinomies that Immanuel Kant had come up with. And also, just a correction from the first video I made, I said Heidegger wrote the Critique of Pure Reason, and that's who Fichte had met. I meant Immanuel Kant. Also in that video, I said F.H. Bradley was a German idealist. He's simply an idealist. I think he may have even been English. And then also that Fichte had met Nietzsche, I said was 1940. I meant 1840. I do these videos without notes, so a lot of it's just from memory, and I forget what I'm saying sometimes. So Immanuel Kant came up with these antinomies. And one of them is there a beginning to time, or did time start at some point, and is it limited? Well, we know scientifically from the Big Bang that space and time started at the Big Bang. So this line right here, which shows the beginning and then time moving out that way, the flow of time, we know that that's the world that we live in, the real world of space and time that we live in. There's this picture here would show that time would go backwards forever and time would go forward forever. Well, we know that's incorrect. In the universe, the reality that we're living in, we know that space and time had a beginning. That's a scientifically accepted fact now. Well, you get into, are there, besides this universe, are there maybe many worlds that maybe this universe is limited, but then maybe this, all the other worlds, the infinite amount of worlds, maybe they're eternal. So then that argument again leads to why Immanuel Kant said that there's four antinomies that we'll never know the answer to. Our limited minds would never know the answer to, and that's whether time is limited or eternal. Well, again, we know everything in our space-time reality, our universe, is discrete, is limited. And these circles here, these continuous circles here, depict how we're viewing reality. This is the cinematic view, much like the way we create a movie with still shots and then move them very quickly is what gives the illusion of motion. This is how we are experiencing all of reality. You have space-time unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're experiencing those, and we jump from 1 to 1 to 1. And it's not a continuous flow. And there's a lot of mathematical reasons for this, and we've talked about Zeno's paradoxes and the stadium paradox, and Julian Barber's The End of Time, in which he talks about this discreteness, and also Max Planck with his proof in 1900 that our reality is discrete. So it is true in our conception of reality in this universe, in the space-time in which we exist, everything we're viewing is and experiencing is discrete. Photons are discrete, our thoughts are discrete, everything, time is discrete, space is discrete, and we're jumping along on these allowable space units. Another antinomy that Kant came up with was in regards to space: does it go on forever or is it limited? Well, we know since the Big Bang that our universe is limited. It has a acceptable number of bits in it, 10 to the power of 127, and we know that it is limited from the Big Bang. And the size of this is 16 billion years times the speed of light. So we know how large the universe is as well. So it is this limited limited mass of matter or space or whatever, and it doesn't just go on forever. So then the paradox arises if within this circle, and that depicts the entirety of the universe, if this is the something, what's out here? This is a nothing. So you have the something and the nothing, something like Democritus talked about in 500 BC, that you have atomism and void. And in between these discrete units, like Planck talked about, you have atomism and void. Then you had Niels Bohr in 1913, the theory of the atom and the orbits and the allowable orbits that electrons were able to jump on was discrete, and there's this nothingness in between it. So then another antinomy was, is there a most fundamental unit, building block of the universe, or is there no foundation to the universe? Well, you have Max Planck, who said that his Planck units were the smallest unit in the universe, and that below that space and time don't exist. Well, if we take that here then and look on a macro level, that here's the entirety of the universe. Okay, so here's where space and time exist, and then out here, here's where space and time doesn't exist. So you have this void again. And so then you take this to what Euclid said, the mathematics of what the definition of a point. And he came up with the definition of a point is that which has no extension. And that is the accepted definition of a point to this day in mathematics, not only in the elements but also in Principia Mathematica. Well, then the paradox arises in mathematics is, if this is a nothing, a point, how does a line ever form? The something here and the nothing there, how does the something ever form if its most fundamental unit is a nothing, a point? So then this paradox continues to go round and round. And so again, this goes back, if we apply all of this to the nature of existence and being and metaphysics and ontology, why is there anything at all? Why does evil exist? Why is there evil and suffering? why is there imperfection if God is this perfect being that we are conceiving of? Why is there imperfection? So all of this is a great mystery. Then you have another antinomy from Immanuel Kant. Is there free will or is there determinism? Well, the world that we live in, according to Immanuel Kant in the Critique of Pure Reason, he said, well, one, if you know the Big Bang and here's the initial cause, going forward, an omniscient God would know the future, cause and effect, and in effect it would be completely a deterministic universe. Well, then Immanuel Kant argued another factor. Well, what if there's you have this cause and effect deterministic universe on a macro level especially, billiard ball universe, but then you have the mind, which is free to pick up a pen, write on this board, and it appears that we have this free will. So you have a mixture of determinism and free will. Well, then I added another antinomy to the mix somewhere along the line in the videos and maybe the last book or two, possibly the Journey to Qualia that I wrote, or the one before that, Being in Time, that there may be another antinomy, a third paradox between if there's determinism or there's determinism and free will. What if there's something called pure freedom and possibly not bounded by space or time or any of the cause and effect features of the reality of which we live, and possibly even in a state of death is where this ultimate freedom may be a reality because it's not bound by space and time. A nothingness of death may be that third condition where pure freedom is in that state, possibly. So all of this is a question, and as Immanuel Kant and many others have said, we'll never know the answer to all of this. So the divine artist was able to go through and ask a lot of these questions in the books that I've written. Again, Metaphysics of Being, House on the Hill, the Ontology Dialogues was the third one, House on the Hill was the second one, Being in Time was the fourth one, the Journey to Qualia was the fifth book, and then all of the videos that I've done. So all of those seem to be just questions that you could never know the answer to. Well, the divine artist has come across some really interesting people. For one, he came across Frederick Nietzsche, who came up with this idea of Overman, that yes, maybe there's imperfection and all of these problems within the universe, but possibly man can attain this Superman, Overman type state by using all of the resources available to attain, if not a state of perfection, but a near state of perfection. And then others have talked about this as well. Plato talked about his theory of forms, theory of ideas, where this transcendent perfect realm does exist for not only shapes and mathematics, but also for just the ideal man. Other people that have talked about this perfection, Ayn Rand has talked about perfection. Hers would be in the real world. And others have talked about this as well. Well, Johann Fichte and Frederick Holderlin came up with an idea that possibly there's this divine I that precedes everything else, and this is this solipsistic view that possibly the divine I, the divine self, precedes all of reality and all of space-time, and is an eternal being that transcends all of this. And I really recommend checking into more of Johann Fichte and a poet, Frederick Holderlin. He was a poet and philosopher, and they lived in the late 1700s. And a lot of this makes a lot of sense. If you go along with George Berkeley, to be perceived, and Rene Descartes, I think, therefore I am, and he struggled with this with his mind-body dualism, the body and matter being that with extension, that was limited, and 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 was not eternal. And then you have what appeared to be this mind and this soul, which had no extension, similar to this point here, definition of a point of Euclid, and was eternal and unique. Also, Gottfried Leibniz had gone through this with his theory of monads, that he thought they were eternal, dimensionless, unique units as the building blocks of all of nature. And possibly, when you throw in quantum mechanics with the collapse of the wave function, that when potential photons are perceived, observed, that's when reality is created. And all of this possibly starting from the divine absolute I. So in some way this is probably just a hopeful idea, much like maybe a faith in God, but this is almost just like a faith in oneself, not only the divine I, but maybe even merging with infinity and God, and the nothingness, the unexplainable, indescribable nature of everything. As Parmenides said, being even transcends itself. And also the only thing that exists is being itself. So again, possibly this divine I. So you have this limited time on earth where you're born and you experience things, and ultimately you die, and you become this nothing. Well, there's this hopeful idea that possibly the divine I transcends all of that and is eternal. So you have this immortality of being and the divine I and the self in some type of perfect state. And of course we don't know the answer to any of this, but given that nobody has any answer about anything, and if you go back to my books, you see why there's a lot of paradoxes in mathematics and logic, and Bertrand Russell's Principia Mathematica, of how even mathematics is on shaky ground. This was proven by Kurt Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Since we don't know the answers to the why, Frederick Nietzsche and the divine artist would throw out the idea that, along with Johann Fichte and Frederick Holderlin, that possibly this divine I may be the answer to everything. And again, this goes back to solipsism of Gorgias, of the early Greeks, and this is a very unique view, and kind of a selfish view, that there's nothing to worry about because you have the divine I and you're completely in control, you're completely free. So that's a summary of what the divine artist has learned. This was the 8th video, and I hope you enjoyed it.